what I would like to talk about after the midterm exam, just kind of reviewing the exam, still having some issues with rounding, how you can look at your grade, what's coming up, and making sure you're fully engaged in the class. So let's first look at how you can review your exam. When you log in, you've got your grade book. Excuse me. So what I've done, I kind of went through, I've done just a few sample problems here and there, but I can go to my grade book and I can review my exam. And, like I said, I didn't do all these problems, but you can always click up here on that little red arrow on problems you missed. So you can pull down your entire homework or exam. You can look at, okay, what you got right, and really no need to review anything there. But this is to illustrate some rounding that still happened. And hopefully it's all done, because I looked ahead in several assignments. I'm going to show that as well. And they don't have this significant digits anymore, but they do have place values. And I believe some of y'all have trouble with place values. But for this one, as an illustration, I'm rounding my angle, not my ankle. I'd like to round my ankle, but I'm rounding the angle here is to the 10th place, which means it is the 0.1 degree. So therefore, my answer had to be 3 significant digits. So the 5, 4, and 3, those are my 3 significant digits. Some of y'all still doing the wrong number of digits, but I fixed those on the test. That's one thing I wanted to illustrate. The other thing that I came across was, I believe some of you all have your calculator in the wrong mode. We should be in degree mode. If your calculator is in radian mode, you may have missed some of these. Questions like the one I just shown you in this one is a matter of punching this tan 46.8 directly into your calculator. Okay, so either you're pressing the wrong button or your calculator's in the wrong mode, which is going to affect all of your trigonometry. So you've got to make sure you have that straightened out. If you're not sure, I mean, you can ask me. It's hard for me to determine without looking. Or maybe if you're at the Georgetown campus or one of the other campuses where you're taking program classes, ask one of your instructors. They'll know. They do this stuff all the time, so that they'll help you out. But that's kind of things that concern me with those. So again, the angle, this right here was 4 significant digits, which means my angle should have been rounded to the hundredths place, 2 decimal places, which is what I did. Here was an example of a completed triangle. And make sure you're calculating the correct side. I saw some of those mistakes. But again, my angle is to the 10th degree, so my answer should all be 3 significant digits, not 3 decimal places, 3 digits, okay? But again, hopefully that will be done now, because I'm going to show you what they're doing for the other law of sines, law of cosines, but most of the time they're asking you to round a specific place value. Overall, we did pretty well. Some of you all didn't do as well on the exams as you're doing in your other work, which sometimes makes me wonder, is it nerves or is it you're getting extra help? But be it as it may, I'm not there with you. I don't know. You know what you're doing. You know what you're not doing. You know what extra help you're getting, or if you're doing it on your own. But I must say, try to prepare differently for the final if you did not achieve what you wanted on this exam, on the midterm. So again, we average the final and the midterm, and you have to have 60 or higher on the average to be eligible to pass. Then all your other work gets averaged in. And I'll go over this again. So, just keep that in mind. Don't procrastinate. I try to give you at least a week from the last due date for an assignment to when the midterm is due. So that I'm hoping to give you plenty of time to practice, to create a good sheet of notes that will help you on the test. But that's all up to you. Okay, so as we move forward, some things do get difficult. Some things are different, but if you just stay with it, you'll be fine. I don't know why I have this angular velocity assignment here, but I'm going to look at it for the heck of it because this is a topic that I see missed all the time. Okay. There's a difference in when you're solving for the capital T if you're given frequency and if you're solving for frequency using angular velocity. Different formulas. So you got to know the difference. There are video examples for these. But for a question like this, if I'm giving it to you in radians per second and you're finding the frequency, you're dividing by 2 pi. That's it. Okay, because the formula for angular velocity is 2 pi times the frequency. If it's radians, if it's degrees, it's 360. Now, when you're finding angular velocity, you're taking this number times 2 pi. If it's radians per second, you're taking it times 360 if it's degrees. So try not to miss those, okay? So for this one here, this is 70 times 360. And that's your degrees per second. So, try not to miss those. So that's something upcoming. What I also want to look at is rounding, and I'm going to kind of show you what I mean by that by previewing an assignment. So this y'all don't see this stuff. This is my mode here. So I want to preview this law of sines and kind of show you how the difference is in rounding. Okay. Like for example, in this problem, round side lengths to the nearest whole number and angle measures to 2 decimal places. Okay, so they change up. Every other question, they could be rounding to something differently. I have no control over that. It would be great if they would round to the tenths place all the time or the hundredths place all the time, but they don't. But remember, the nearest whole number is the nearest whole number. So if it's nearer to 31 or 32, that's what you're rounding to. Okay, so for example, if I was looking at 101.4, well, to the nearest whole number, that's 101. If it was 101.5, it would be 102. So don't always round down or round up. You're rounding to the nearest. 2 decimal places is the hundredths place. Okay? So again, if you need to, Google rounding. They'll give you some help. Now in this question, round to the nearest tenth. Okay? So now I'm rounding everything to 1 decimal place. That's what the tenth is, 1 decimal place. Here, round side lengths to the nearest whole number. So these are whole numbers. And angle measures to 1 decimal place. So as you can see, they sometimes call it 1 decimal place. They sometimes call it the tenths place. I can't control that. So you just have to pay attention to what you're rounding to so you don't miss these. Okay? So that's something I wanted to talk about was the rounding. And this is what's upcoming. You've got your degrees and radians, your frequency, angular velocity, law of sines, law of cosines. It's not easy by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not impossible. Then we take our next quiz. Then we go through complex numbers. Again, some things aren't too bad. Some things are difficult. Then we do adding and subtracting phasors. That's difficult, but it's not impossible. Then we shift gears and get into exponential functions, logarithms, and our binary octohexadecimals. Then we do our exam 3. Then you go ahead and you got plenty of time to practice for the final exam. Okay, so that's kind of what's upcoming. Now, if you're curious about your grade, you've got your grade book, and we were already here a few minutes ago. But, you can look at the calculation. These breaks it down into what your homework average is, your quiz average, and your test average. And then, 10 points, 10%, 10%, 80% is how you get your final grade. So it's not counting things you haven't done yet. So if you haven't done stuff, then it's not counting against you yet, but it will by the end of the semester. So that's one thing you can look at. Now, as far as engagement goes, a couple of you, not many, so I'm not speaking to many of y'all. I'm speaking to a, 10-15% of you. Things are surprising you, like that you had to take the midterm exam, that it was proctored, that all these things coming up. And that tells me you're not watching my videos or reading my emails, because I've been reminding you all about these due dates, about these processes for a month before the midterm. I've been talking about it. So you need to be engaged in what's going on in class. I mean, just because it's online doesn't mean you can just blow everything off. I send out emails, I send out videos. I feel like most of the time people would rather listen and watch than read. So I try to send out more videos. I try to keep them under 5 or 10 minutes, just so you don't have to sit there and watch them too long. But they're YouTube videos. You can watch them on your phone. But they're pretty informative. I also took you through and showed you where to sign up for exams, proctors, all this stuff. So when I get emails saying I don't know what I'm doing, it's telling me you're not watching them. So it's telling me you're not fully engaged. So try to engage yourself more on a weekly basis in this class. Also, for those of y'all that didn't take the midterm, you're kind of in trouble right now. You haven't contacted me. We haven't made arrangements. So I don't know what's going on. But, I'm not a mind reader, so I need the communication. So anyway, get busy. Don't procrastinate. A lot of this stuff is going to be brand new to you. And give yourself plenty of time to practice the skill, to ask questions of me if you get stuck on stuff, or go to tutoring. Okay, there is tutoring available. I know it's not at all our campuses. It may not fit your time frame, but it is available. There's also in Blackboard, when you log in, let me see if I can find Thinking Storm. That's supposedly an online tutoring service. I don't know how it works, but you've got all about BCTC tutoring. You've got drop-in, reserve an appointment, start online appointments. So you've got options there. But anyway, I'm going to end this now because, like I said, I like to keep these short. I'm already over 10 minutes, and that's long enough. So we'll be talking to you, but, all is not lost if you didn't do well on the midterm. Trust me, if you improve, do well on the final, that'll be good. So have a good weekend, rest of the week and weekend.